We're live from the Bitcoin conference. This man deserves no introduction because everybody knows who he is, but it is the one and only Michael Saylor. Michael, how are you? How's the conference going?
Best week of the year. I think this is the greatest Bitcoin conference ever, to tell you the truth.
Really? Why? Why is that?
First of all, the energy is extraordinary. All the people are extraordinary. It's electric. But the number of announcements, the GameStop announcement and Mayor Adams' announcement about the Bit bonds, and Cantor's announcement about Bitcoin credit, and the Nakamoto announcement. We had the vice president here. We've never had a vice president at a Bitcoin conference. Right, so Bitcoin being embraced by the government, we have cabinet members here. Bitcoin being embraced by states, Bitcoin being embraced by cities, Bitcoin being embraced by lots and lots of public companies, Bitcoin being embraced by the mainstream media, rank and file, and just the incredible surge of Bitcoiners here. I think altogether that's extraordinary.
How far we've come. It's like every single conference, they each outperforms the other. What else is going to happen? We already had the president of the United States, the VP. Like, are we going to have the monarchs from Saudi Arabia come and speak?
In time, we're going to have countries. We had Pakistan announcing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. In time, we're going to have countries coming, working to outdo each other, and that will be a wonderful day.
That will. 100%. Actually, I've talked to many of the CEOs of the Bitcoin strategic reserves, and all of them have confessed that you're their mentor. I have to ask, who's your mentor? And because you're mentoring them, you must have like a mentor. And what do your days look like now that you're mentoring all these Bitcoin treasury companies?
I have gone through 100,000 pages of economic history by Murray Rothbard, of political history by Will Durant, all the Austrian economists, Hayek and von Mises, all of the political histories. And they're my mentors, learning from that. And then I've spent a lot of time communing with AI, which has also read all of them, and discussing what it thinks. And I'm very inspired by the great thinkers throughout the civilization. And of course, if I had to pick one mentor of the modern era, it would be Satoshi, because Satoshi gave us perfect money. And I date January 3rd, 2009 as the singularity. All of the historians, all of the writers I read, Voltaire and von Mises and Rothbard and Durant, they all lament that the world is an imperfect place, the money is broken, and government policy intervention doesn't work. All of them agree on that. It took Satoshi to give us the solution, because the solution was, for the first time in human history, we can tightly bind economic energy to the individual, put it in their head. And so this idea that we can invert the entire power structure of the human race by pulling the energy out of the land, out of the currency, out of the gold, out of the companies, out of the collectibles, out of the bonds, and put it into the heads or the hands of the people. That's a profound breakthrough, because that gave us the hope that we could actually deliver economic freedom, political freedom, dignity and sovereignty to humanity. I would like to say that was a dream before January 3rd. But the truth is, all of these historians, all of these economists I've read, they never articulated the dream. They couldn't conceive of the solution. They just gave you 100 examples of the problem. And so if there is one mentor, it's got to be Satoshi.
100%. And obviously, we're starting the phases like you see Bitcoin in a way entering the political realm. Is there a possible way that Bitcoin can fail? Because in a way, we're still in the early stages. Bitcoin's a teenager in a way, and you're saying that it's our hope. Is there a way that, like, for example, the politicians can try to centralize Bitcoin mining and for it to, like, Satoshi's vision kind of fall? Or do you think we've already passed that point and Bitcoin will succeed against all the odds?
Bitcoin is a truth virus wrapped in a freedom virus, wrapped in a monetary virus. And it is spreading throughout the entire world. When 10 people on the city block embrace it, it becomes more powerful. When the richest person on the block embraces it, it becomes more powerful again. When a small city embraces it, it becomes more powerful again, and the city's transformed. They become more truthful, and they look out further, and they become more rational. And then everyone in the network benefits. And so as Bitcoin spreads virally through cities and counties and states and countries, on one hand, it's drawing their energy. On the other hand, it's transforming them. Every single politician, every single person that seeks to benefit from Bitcoin finds themselves transformed by Bitcoin. So it is a virus, but it's a virus of rationale, and it's a virus of truth, and it's a virus of soundness, sound money. So as more and more countries embrace it, it will actually make Bitcoin stronger. Bitcoin is better if adversaries, if the 20 superpowers in the world or the 20 powers in the world, they all embrace it, they will all create a countervailing check and balance on each other that strengthens the protocol and actually strengthens everybody in the network. So I don't worry about it spreading to other countries. I don't worry about it spreading to more powerful companies or any other entity. I think Bitcoin is a perfect machine made of imperfect parts. And it is true that every single person that adopts Bitcoin will be imperfect. Every company, every government, they will all be imperfect, but they will give their energy to the network. The network will become even more anti-fragile, even more robust, and even more powerful. And that is the impact of this brilliant crypto virus that was unleashed by Satoshi on the world.
If you're stuck spending dollars, at least stop earning fiat rewards. Use Fold and earn Bitcoin on everyday spending, groceries, travel, even paying bills. And take advantage of Bitcoin rewards with merchants you might already shop with. It's the easiest way to stack sats. So, if you're in the United States and you don't have Fold yet, what are you doing? Buy, earn, and save in Bitcoin, all in one app. Fold is the ultimate toolkit for making Bitcoin savings a daily habit. I want to talk about the 4242 capital plan. How is that going for you guys? And can you simplify and tell us a little bit where that went?
In October of 2024, we announced a 21-21 plan. We announced that we were going to raise 21 billion of equity and 21 billion of fixed income in order to buy Bitcoin. And that was 10 times bigger than anything anybody had ever done in the history of the capital markets. It was the biggest equity filing in the history of the capital market, not just in the US, but anywhere. And people thought we were crazy. And we said, well, give us 3 years. We'll get through it, And then what came next was the red sweep, followed by an orange cabinet, followed by extraordinary enthusiasm. And we went through that first $21 billion of equity in like 4 months. It went not 3 years, but 3 to 4 months. And then we were able to go and sell billions and billions of fixed income. And so we realized, come this quarter, we're about 6 months out, we decided that we needed to reset it. And so we doubled down to 42 billion in equity and 42 billion in fixed income. Again, setting our targets out 3 years. Maybe it will take us that long. Perhaps we will go faster. How fast we go is a function of the enthusiasm of the capital markets and the Bitcoin market, and then everything everyone else is doing in this community, right? When the mayor of New York announces that New York is behind the Bitbond, that helps us. When the government announced a strategic Bitcoin reserve, that helps us. Should they buy lots of Bitcoin, that will help us as well. So we don't know exactly how fast we'll get through it, but we're confident that we will. And the goal is to simply strengthen the Bitcoin network by funneling all of that capital from the fiat currency markets and the equity capital markets and the traditional credit markets into the Bitcoin economy.
You mentioned New York. New York, obviously, you talk about it a lot because of, the real estate and everything. And you also talk a lot about Bitcoin as digital real estate or digital capital. Besides accumulating it for shareholders, do you have any plans to use or build on strategies Bitcoin in the near future? I.e., loans, a Bitcoin backed bank, loans, etc.?
Lots of people will come up with lots of things to do with digital capital over time. What we're doing with it is we're using it as collateral. It's the base layer that we use to issue billions of dollars of bonds. We've issued about $10 billion of bonds that were backed by the Bitcoin. And now we've just issued two preferred stocks, one called Strike, and there's about $1 billion of it floating in the market now. That is backed by the Bitcoin. And another thing we issued called Strife, that provides a 10% dividend at par value. That's the sort of the highest yielding instrument of its kind in the market. That is backed by Bitcoin. So when people are buying this preferred stock called Strife, we're agreeing to give them 10% yield forever, for 100 years, for 1,000 years. And so how are we doing that? We're investing our own Bitcoin. And then their question is, well, how will you pay us? Well, we're invested in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's appreciating. I think it'll appreciate 30% a year for the next 20 years, and then 20% or more. So the Bitcoin is the engine that is generating the dividends, that is generating the collateral and the security for those fixed income investors. The future of our company, our business strategy, is we wish to be the global leader in the issuance of Bitcoin-backed credit. We want to issue a preferred stock that gives you European yield in return for Bitcoin yield. So we'll give the Europeans more yield than they're getting from their corporate bonds. Or we'll generate yield for the Japanese yen. So the Japanese investors get 50 basis points in yield from their corporate bonds. If we go to Japan and offer 10 times that much, they're getting JPY yield. We will take back Bitcoin yield, you see? So what we're doing is we're creating Bitcoin yield for our equity investors, and we're giving fiat yield for all of the conventional fixed income investors. That's a $300 trillion market. So when you're saying, well, how are we actually getting value for the Bitcoin? The Bitcoin is generating yield for our equity shareholders because every time we sell any of those fixed income instruments, that generates BTC yield. And then, of course, the fixed income instruments generate a more secure, higher yield for the conventional investors. And that's a business that can grow scalably for a long, long time. The critical thing is we have to have the Bitcoin. We have the $60 billion of Bitcoin collateral. That's what allows us to secure the loan. And that's also what allows us to provide the performance to the convertible preferred stocks that the investors want. And so it's a very elegant strategy right now. The beauty of the strategy is we hold our own Bitcoin. We're not giving it to anybody else, hoping they'll give it back to us. In essence, it's a Bitcoin-backed credit strategy. If I were to go to a conventional investor and I were to say, what would you rather have, 50% return and 50 vol, or 20% return and 20 vol? The majority of them would want 20% return and 20 vol. The actual market for that is 100x bigger. And that's because they just don't want to get on the roller coaster. And Bitcoin is a roller coaster for many. But having said all that, the capital markets are structured. So there are some people that have billions of dollars to invest in venture capital. They have to invest in a private equity of a venture. There are other people that have billions of dollars to invest in bonds. They have to buy the bond. Other people have billions of dollars to invest in convertible bonds. They have to buy the convertible bond. Some people have billions of dollars to invest in equity. They can't buy Bitcoin. They can buy a Bitcoin company. And so when you look at the overall capital markets, and I'm talking about $400 to $500 trillion, that's been structured over 50 years. These people created that fund. All the famous money managers, they've been in the business 30 years. So 10 years ago, they agreed with their limited partners, the pension funds and the endowments. They agreed they would invest that money with this strategy. They have to stay in their lane. And the charter doesn't include Bitcoin. So what we're doing is if you're a private company, you give the venture capitalist Bitcoin preferred. And if you're public, you give the equity capitalist public equity. And if you give credit instruments to credit investors, they can buy it. Believe it or not, there are some people that can only invest in distressed debt from bankrupt companies. I do not intend to ever serve that market, right? I'm not going to bankrupt myself to give them something to buy from me. But they have to buy that. And so once you understand where all the money is, you have the people in Japan, they want Japanese yen denominated yield. I could say, well, I'll give you something better in dollars. They're like, I can't buy it. We have a 10% yield in dollars right now. They're getting 50 basis points, 1/20th as much in yen. They're not going to buy the thing that's 20 times better. They might very well buy something that yields 4% in yen because it's in yen. So you have to go to the investors and give them the instrument they want, structured the way they want in their capital market, if you're going to get them to trade their capital for your security or your investment idea. And that's what we're doing as a business in order to grow the Bitcoin ecosystem and bridge the traditional capital markets with the crypto economy.
And you've also said that endorsing other companies execute a similar Bitcoin acquisition strategy through ATMs, convertible bonds, and other financial products won't threaten or compete with MicroStrategy's ability to do so. Why?
Bitcoin is the most cooperative, most ethical, most inspirational network in the world. Every time someone joins the network and contributes their capital to the network, all the rest of us become more powerful, more secure, and more successful. So I could say, hey, it's like electricity. We have electricity. Every company's going to use electricity. Why would it be threatened? But that would be a much weaker metaphor than the real metaphor. The real metaphor is there's only 450 Bitcoin available per day. There is a drive shaft that's turning the entire network. Every time $50 million of capital flows in the Bitcoin ecosystem, we turn it once. So Nakamoto raises $1 billion and they turn that 20 times, right? And when GameStop raises 500 million, they turn that shaft 10 times, right? And when 21 raises their 3 billion, they turn it again. And so we're turning the drive shaft, which is lifting everyone, because once the $50 million of capital comes into the network, there are no natural sellers left. Now the price must go up to find a new seller. As the price goes up, everybody in the network becomes that much wealthier and that much more powerful, and all of their business strategies catch energy and momentum. So everyone will pursue their own strategy. The Metaplanet people raise capital from the Japanese market. I couldn't sell into the Japanese market. They're not competing with me. They're orange pilling the Japanese investors. There'll be Bitcoin treasury companies in Brazil. There'll be Bitcoin treasury companies in France and Canada. They're all bringing their unique value proposition, and they will help their nation, their shareholders. But ultimately, the final beneficiary is always Bitcoin and the Bitcoin holder. And everything that is a derivative of Bitcoin will benefit from that. So I think we're in the early days where there's a dozen companies pursuing this hard and there's 100 pursuing it lightly. But one day, every public company will flip to the Bitcoin standard from the local fiat standard. And they'll do it because 25 years out, fiat sovereign debt will yield 3% and have a 3 vol, and Bitcoin will be 20% with a 20 vol, and it will still be 7, 8, 10 times better to be on the Bitcoin standard, even after 20 years of all of us doing what we're doing. So I'm not at all concerned. I think it's great for all those companies will be successful if they don't make a rookie mistake. You still got to execute. but they're more likely than not to be successful. They will all pursue a different strategy. We will all learn from each other. We will all benefit each other. The ultimate beneficiary is the entire Bitcoin network.
And speaking of these companies, they have a core business that ultimately they end up being, insignificant compared to their treasury. For strategy, why is it still important to have a cash flowing business? And why not just sell it for more Bitcoin?
We love our customers. We love the business. The business, it's important to our customers to keep upgrading the software. It makes us money. And it's kind of like the example I gave of the dentist. If you're a dentist or a doctor and you love your work and you invest in Bitcoin and you're smart about it and you get insanely rich, you may still want to show up to work because you like having it to do. If you were an artist, you would want to paint. So if you love what you're doing, you're going to keep doing it. Everybody's got their operational business, right? Their day job. If you get delight from what you do and you get a lot of positive feedback from your audience, you'll continue to do it. And Bitcoin will empower you, endow you with the wealth to do that without fear or anxiety or without taking short term shortcuts.
And obviously, you've helped many of these companies, get the Bitcoin standard and become mini strategies. Would strategy ever consider acquiring stakes in these companies as an investment?
Our business strategy is to be 100% Bitcoin. And so we will always buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is our hurdle rate, and there are a couple of reasons for that, really almost three. One, we want to be neutral because I want to help hundreds of companies, and I can't afford to play favorites, and I don't have enough time to be invested in just three of them. The second is all of our credit instruments we sell, those are all based upon a homogeneous credit risk. You're holding Bitcoin. Are there any complications? No. If I were to invest in 22 things, then there would be 25 pages of disclosures for each thing, and there'd be 250 pages of consideration. And I don't want to complicate the decision my investors make. I want to be hyper transparent. If one of them were to work differently than Bitcoin, if it was better or worse, the company becomes opaque, and it becomes opaque. It's hard for people to understand and to trust us. See, part of our value proposition is because you know exactly what we're going to do. If you disagree with it, you can short us with 20x leverage. And if you agree with it, you can go long with 20x leverage. And you could put on $1 billion bet that's good for 4 weeks. The last thing you want is for me to say, oh, we're investing in a new business and we're very excited. And it might, and it just screws up that guy's $1 billion bet and that guy's $1 billion bet. And now they're like, I can't trust the company. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just going to sell. I don't want to play the game. So our job is to be neutral, Switzerland with regard to the ecosystem, and make everybody successful, but also to be laser-like in our business model, which is we're going to create equity, which is going to be levered Bitcoin. We're going to attempt to outperform Bitcoin with leverage, and we're going to create credit instruments that strip volatility and risk and performance off of Bitcoin. And we're going to keep doing it the same way. And I think all these other businesses are great opportunities for private equity investors, venture capital investors. They have other pools of capital that is not invested in Bitcoin. The way you could think of it is my $65 billion of Bitcoin is pledged to support the equity and to support the bonds and support the preferred stocks. And I need to make sure that pledge remains inviolable. And I need people to say, that's what they're going to do for the next decade. And if I believe that, then I will buy something and I will hold it for a decade or 20 years or 30 years. We want people to know what we stand for. And this is what we stand for, Bitcoin forever.
Bitcoin forever. I love that. You also recently said it would be unsafe to do proof of reserves. However, your Bitcoin treasury strategy competitors, Metaplanet and 21 Capital, are both doing proof of reserves. Do you think they're making a mistake?
I think it's just a complicated subject. It depends on the size of the company, the capital market you're in. It depends on the scope of your operations, and it depends upon your regulators. For us right now, it's important to note that a public company selling an equity has to post a proof of assets and a proof of liabilities that's audited and signed off by the auditors with the annual report every year and with the 10Q every quarter. When you post that, that has to be signed by the officers with an attestation under Sarbanes-Oxley. And then all of the related parties to the officers and directors have to be disclosed. So you see, you couldn't reasonably make an investment in a public company without knowing there are no related parties, without knowing there are no side agreements, without knowing the scope of all the liabilities, and then all the assets. And that's the best practice. And that's generally what equity investors, big ones in the US, expect. I think that the proof of reserves offers you the chance to see what's in a wallet. What it doesn't do is solve the question of, are there liabilities against the wallet? Are there related parties that own part of the wallet? Are there any side agreements that are in the wallet? And you can't ever really know that without a full audit. So I think I think they will do it. There will be some benefits for people that publish it. There will be security complications because, you know, I wouldn't recommend any individual go on X and publish their Bitcoin wallet address to the world because you would have everyone tracking you. I I think that we will learn from what everybody does, and I think the great thing about the ecosystem is with this many companies, there are some companies going to try different strategies. They'll do, for example, people will do things that my lawyers would tell me I can't do or I shouldn't do. And so they will do it. And if it works, then I will take that and go back to my attorney and say, look, it worked. The regulator said it was okay. The banker said it was okay. It worked, and maybe we should do it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll say, well, I guess the lawyers or the accountants or whatever were right. So I think we're still early days, and we'll see how it all works out.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
Speaking of time, what is the most interesting or coolest thing that you've learned about Bitcoin this year?
I think the coolest thing that I've learned about Bitcoin this year is just the incredible diverse appeal that it has globally, right? The number of actors from people in Brazil, people in, actors in Mexico, actors in Pakistan, actors in the Middle East, actors in France and the UK, the explosion of excitement about Bitcoin treasury companies. I meet someone like, yeah, I'm doing this in UAE, I'm doing this in Hong Kong, I'm doing this in UK, I'm doing this in Norway. Like the explosion of that, and then every time you see an exciting announcement, a soccer team that's embracing Bitcoin, GameStop embracing Bitcoin, the mayor of the biggest city in the United States embracing Bitcoin. This is a classic example of a viral, explosive phenomena. You know, there's no way you can stop an idea whose time has come, and you see indicators this year that the time has come for this idea.
And what would you say your hottest take on Bitcoin is?
Most of the risk, if not all of the risk, in my opinion, has been stripped off it in the past 4 years, especially over the past 12 months. And yet, most people don't appreciate this fact, right? So we're at a very critical inflection point where you already know the banks will embrace it, the insurance companies will embrace it, the governments will embrace it. You know, the accounting profession has embraced it. Wall Street has embraced it. Companies have embraced it. International markets have embraced it. You can see it all. And yet, the conventional investor, the mainstream media, they still don't get it yet. And so, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity where you can know something. You know the future, it's very clear. You know why the future is clear, and everybody else just doesn't see the future yet. And that's the superpower I think we all have in this industry right now.
I love that because, yeah, we're 100% still early. Thank you so much, Michael.